Hello. Okay, I am standing up today. I'm like running on the spot. I've got my walking pad below me because whilst this episode we did record back in April, it was like a pre-birthday party episode. I constantly am asked, Alicia, what do I do with my Instagram account? Should I start a new account? How do I revive it? What do I do? And whilst we could chat on this, I wanted to get the best of the best in here so that you can get the very best strategies that will work for you no matter your niche. So today on the podcast, I am so excited to have both Ginny and Laura. They both grew their audience to over 100,000 followers, but their growth completely stalled for about 2 years. A few months ago, they were losing followers daily until they cracked the code to revive their growth. Now they gain up to 60,000 followers in 30 days, and they're here to share exactly how they did it so that you can know how to do the same without ads, hacks, or spending hours online. I know that this is going to be such a beneficial episode where we talk through things that you can start applying and seeing the results from today. So without further ado, let's dive on into this episode with Ginny and Laura. All right, this is like a podcast party and you know, it's pretty perfect timing. Tomorrow's my birthday, and who am I spending my day before my birthday with? Laura and Ginny, welcome.
Thank you. Happy early birthday.
So happy to be here.
It is the best kind of podcast party. And this episode is definitely one that I know so many people are going to be like listening to every single word that you both drop, because you two have been doing things that I've seen no one do it like you. No, I've seen no one revive their accounts like both of you. I've seen no one completely chuck out the rule book and go against it like you both. You are both just doing such exceptional things, and I'm really excited to showcase you and for you to drop some gold today. But let's start off with She Got Lucky stories. Who wants to go first?
I mean, up to you, Laura, but like, it's always awkward with Laura. Like, are you starting?
We're both like, should we like raise our hands? Ginny, I would love to hear your story. You could go first.
The She Got Lucky, like it's our entire life, right? Since we've been creating content on Instagram, it's been 5 years now. I think we've had it a million times. Alicia, you had it as well. Like, it was all about, yes, but it was easier when, or it was easier at that timing and stuff. I grew an audience from scratch. I mean, Laura had a little bit of an audience that she grew, back in the day as a teenager or whatever. And then we made it work, even though everyone was telling us, yeah, it's impossible to grow on Instagram. You won't be able to make it. And then we grew an audience. And then it stopped growing. We stopped making sales even. And we're like, okay, let's stop everything. Let's press pause. I literally didn't post for an entire month in August. And I was like, I'm just going to spend a lot of time analyzing what's out there, like literally learning again Instagram. Because yes, Instagram evolves. But I think more than Instagram evolves is more like people evolve. And I talk about it quite a lot lately. But I think it's more on how people consume content and how people create content. There's better content creators and people expect different. So yeah, we press pause and reflected, and then came back stronger and then find a way to make it work again. And then if anything, I grew more than I ever grew in the past 5 years. So it's been quite wild. To be fair, sometimes I'm a bit like, oh, wow, this is going much faster than I expected. I'm a bit surprised myself. And sometimes I even ask myself, what am I doing right in order to grow that fast or make it work? So it's not like I know some deep secret. I know a few things, but sometimes I'm also like, I'm not sure.
I mean, I think similarly, that's the thing with like Ginny and I, obviously we're in this business together, but funny enough, our paths have looked very similar. So even back in the day when we were each having our coaching business, we grew it quite quickly, but at a similar timeline. So it was like at similar months, we were hitting certain revenue goals, whether it was $5,000 a month and $10,000 a month. And It was so special for me when I think back of it. It's like, I don't think Ginny and I got lucky. I think we were just both very much going for it. And it shows that that timeline can be followed by two very different people if you just go all in. And of course, also in some ways, surround yourself with the right knowledge and people. Like, for sure, Ginny and I, we have always had each other's back. We've always cheered for each other, coached each other along the way. And that's been a huge part of our success as well. But that being said, it still came with action and messy action. And it's the same with like our Instagram growth. It's like so interesting to see how we spent 2 years to grow to 100,000 followers and then 2 years of being stuck. But like that was both our accounts. So it shows that we were both in that same place of like not being able to grow because life was lifing pretty damn hard. And, you know, content took a back seat and that just showed. And then when we decided, okay, enough is enough, fuck this shit, we're going to change that around. We decided to do that. And boom, we both went back to growth and we're both growing. I find that so powerful as well about our experience is like when people ask us, yeah, but it's worked for you. I'm like, yes, but it also worked for Ginny and it works for our clients. But it's also like, I find it quite interesting how we can show it on two different accounts, two different people, and back in the day, even two different businesses. And I kind of like that because it kind of, I guess, counteracts the whole lucky thing is like, no, of course, there's always, I'd like to say there's this element of course, sometimes maybe stars aligning and things like that for things to fall in place. But like, it still came with massive action and being in the right place to do that as well, and the right mindset.
And the fact that you guys, as we will talk about, revived your account, like you've proved all these, you know, anyone who says like, oh, that was the glory days, that was the easy days. And it's like, hang on a second. We had a period where, yeah, we could have bought into that story, but we decided not to. And instead, we decided to create even bigger momentum. Something that I've already mentioned to both of you is just how incredible. I know how much work goes into not just a business, but a partnership. And the two of you, the fact that your lives have shifted and changed and have been so up and down behind the scenes, but together you have supported each other in such a unique way is just incredible. And so I would love to sort of know, you know, like during those periods where it was perhaps, you know, Laura had to pull away a little bit more or Ginny had to pull away a little bit more, how did you guys sort of manage that so much like a dance? You're like, okay, you're leading now. Now you're leading.
I almost want to cry when I was listening to her. I was like, oh my God, it's so emotional.
I mean, it's your team and you just have to work as a team. So I think I just wanted to start because it first happened when Laura's mom got sick in 2022.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, Laura didn't have a full head. Obviously, I did not expect her to have it. So I was just kind of like, you know, Laura, take the time that you need. I think I told her at some point, that's like, there's no point of you being in the business, but not being in it. So it's like, I really do not care to work by myself for like 6 months, a year, whatever it takes, but just take the time, take the break. It doesn't really matter because again, I think, you know, we have the same work ethic. It's funny because I was talking about this with my friend yesterday. I was talking about the fact that when you friend with someone, when you're married, when you know, in a relationship in some sort, it's like, it shouldn't matter that you have to take time off or time away or whatever. You should be able to come back and it's the same and nothing has changed and that person should understand and all of that. So it's a bit like that. It's like, if you have a trust-based relationship, you will find each other again. You will find a way to work together again. And in the meantime, you just take it on you and just make it work.
But I think that's the thing as well. Like, actually, I think we're very lucky that we have the same values in that, because I don't think everyone maybe has that same way of looking at the world. I think both Ginny and I, when I think of, for example, your relationship with your husband and my relationship with Dick, and I think we very much have the same values in how much we trust the people that we're with. And we have that between us as well. I've known Ginny now for 5 years, so I know that's how we roll. But it is true that not everyone has the same values. And I think one thing we said from the beginning is that, yes, Ginny and I have the same work ethic, but I also think we have the same values. We look at life at the end of the day still in similar ways. Like, I never have to worry about the trust part. And I think that's just so important, because then you don't look at life the same way. You don't, like, I don't know, like, you don't calculate things as you would maybe with other people in your life where you're like not so close and maybe you don't trust them that much, right? So I think it's just like, at some point, I think we both have this mindset of like, we're a team and we figure it out together and there's life. that's lifing sometimes. I'm already glad that it wasn't happening at the same time, everything, that at least we took breaks. Like it was like first mentions, and then it was Ginny going through obviously big life changes. So at least we take turns, So if anything, it worked out pretty well. We balanced each other out. And if anything, we also talk often about it, that's why we're glad that we have each other as well, because we are able to navigate life a little bit easier together with the business than if we were alone, because I can't even imagine how the year was that my mom was sick and I was in the hospital going through my own surgeries if I was alone in the business. I don't even want to imagine, in all honesty. That would have been really, really tough. So it's just also like almost a privilege now. And I think that's our strong suit in our partnership. So
Yeah. I think, if anything, I guess we could say we got lucky with that. Like we got lucky to find each other. But then, you believe what you want to believe. You can also believe that you attract what you meant to attract as well. Yeah. The thing that I say where I get lucky is like, I got lucky with the partner that I got and that we value the same thing.
Yes. Right back at you.
Well, look, I think as well, and again, this is the big debate. This is the She Got Lucky podcast. Is yes, it's so fortunate that you both found each other, but also it's the decisions, it's the constant work, it's the constant choices that you both continue from someone who's obviously I've been a part of your journey, like on the outside from both of you, and knowing all the things that you both have sort of been through. To support each other in the way that you have is truly, truly incredible. And definitely, I wouldn't say a luck. So with that, I want to take a little sidestep. So to paint a picture, I found Ginny and Laura when we were all sort of setting the scene and educating and really out in front when Reels came out. And you both were doing incredible things, very, very different, but incredible things. Now, in the past few years, there's been that period where we have had to evolve, we have had to change. And there was this period where you weren't growing, you were pretty stagnant for a while. So talk us through, because that has shifted. You are both growing thousands of followers per month, right? You are like growing at such a rapid rate. It is like you have injected some incredible potion into your Instagram account. And I know everyone wants some of this. So talk us through the revive.
I mean, I'll start with, I guess, the mindset part, because I think strategy-wise, I'd love Ginny to talk more about that. But I think the main thing that we first had to acknowledge is that we were indeed losing followers for almost 2 years long. I mean, it wasn't every month losing followers, but it was like the trend was we lost followers over those 2 years, and it was quite a lot. And we weren't growing at all. And one thing that, again, I struggle with actually even more than Ginny is that I built this box for myself of like rules I have to follow. And one of those rules was that I have to post consistently. And yes, I believe consistency is important on Instagram, don't get me wrong. But I also think it's sometimes important to realize when you're just doing the same thing over and over again and not getting anywhere. And so I feel like that was first the big mindset part. That especially for me was really important to realize, and luckily Ginny was the one to be like, nah, I'm just taking a break, fuck it. And that gave me permission to do the same, so that was good. But the first step was taking a step back and just acknowledging like, okay, we don't like what we're creating anymore, it's not going anywhere, let's just not post to post, and let's take a step back and then re-strategize.
Yeah, I guess I literally said to her, like, fuck it, we have to stop posting, because we hired a coach that gave us an approach that was very much different from what we used to do. And there's nothing wrong with this approach, but it was not us whatsoever. And it was about, selling more all the time and just being like constantly selling, basically constantly launching, live launching. And it was so different from what we used to do. And it was kind of working, but it was a lot of work. So we had to create all of that. Obviously, I'm a mom and I don't even have that much time on my hands. And then on top of it, we have our content that is literally getting, we have 100,000 followers getting 2,000 views on our reels or 2,000 views on our carousels. And you're like, where are you even going? We're trying to, convert those tiny leads. When you have 100,000 followers, it makes no sense. And this is not what we're known for anyway. In the first place, we're known for Instagram growth. So let's go back to our roots, and it's being aligned with what you do. It's like, what is the thing that you truly believe in? What is the thing that you feel passionate and driven by, that is very much you? And if you do those things, it will be so much easier. And it was almost, we felt like we were faking it for a while. Like we're just
we were. I think
letting
we were
our content.
misaligned for a
Yeah,
long time.
it was like we were just kind of not these people and we're trying as if we were those people, and it was just not. And I guess people can see through that, you know, they can hear it, they can feel it, and it's not working. And you see some people online doing things, you're like, it doesn't sound like you. Anyway, so I spent, like I said, a lot of time analyzing what people were doing right. And I think obviously, like, people change, the way people consume content has changed. You know, there's shorter attention span. There's also the fact that content creators got better, as simple as that. Like, you know, there's a whole Gen Z now creating content on Instagram, and they're freaking killing it. Like, they're really good at it, you know? And we didn't have this issue 5 years ago because they were not really creating, and we're still like millennials, like creating in our little bubble, and everything was new.
We were
And
doing pointing reels and we were going back.
and you know,
Where are the times? It was so easy.
exactly. It was so much easier in a way like this. And obviously, it's not going to please the millennials or anything, like any people who are older. But yeah, it's like there's these people who grew up with technology, who had a camera in their hands since they were literally little. And they're coming on Instagram and creating content, and it's 10 times better than what we do. And we had to level up. So I think naturally Laura and I are quite good at, you know, cameras and figuring things out. So I think there's anything, like, get better with a camera. As simple as that. Learn how to use lighting, learn how to use your even if it's your iPhone. If you have a DSLR camera, that's even better. But it's just getting better at that. And I was like, okay, I have these skills. I might as well just use it, because clearly those people are using it. And also just kind of finding what's trendy right now on Instagram, because yes, you will have trends, and they usually last, I would say, I mean, girls, tell me if I'm wrong, but it can be anywhere from 6 months to maybe a couple of years even. And I feel like, anyway, from what I'm consuming, I felt like what was working very much was this whole like filmmaking, cinematic kind of vibe. I was like, this is my vibe. I love this. So I'm just gonna jump on it. And I'm actually going to mention someone here. It's actually this guy called JB Copland. I hope I pronounced his name right. And I was literally saying to Laura, look at his Instagram. I think it was TikTok even. I was like, look at his TikTok. He used to share those like podcast video. I think, I don't even remember what it was, but it was very much like this kind of background, no fuss, whatever. And it was kind of saying the same thing. And then suddenly it changed the entire vibe of his video, and he blew up pretty much overnight, you know? And I was like, yeah, so the vibes, the aesthetic, this kind of cinematic or kind of, I don't know, very warm vibe is working right now. And it worked for him. And I was like, I like this. I'm going to try something similar. So yeah, it's been a big inspiration for reviving my dead accounts. And something that, sorry, I'm trying to say a lot of things at once, but there's so many things. We could talk about it for hours and hours on end. So I'm just trying. But thing that I always tend to do, but since the beginning, is try to understand what other niches are doing well, and that we can bring into our own niche. Because a lot of the time, what people do is that looking at competitors and like, oh, it works for this person, I'm just going to replicate the same exact thing. And yeah, maybe it's working, but the thing is, you're just going to be a copycat. You're not going to have your own voice. And again, it might not feel aligned with you. I barely consume competitors' content. I spend much more time consuming things about, indeed, like filmmaking industry, from fashion, parenting, all those things. And every time they do something well, I try to understand what they do well. I'm like, can I bring this to my niche? Can I maybe change that? JB Copland is I believe he's a psychologist. Like,
yeah, life coach, mindset, right?
yeah, so he's sharing more about, you know, psychology tips, like my lifestyle stuff. He's not a competitor, so that's that. So that's what we did basically. The first thing that I did was review the vibe basically, and I did this for my carousels. I did this for my reels. For my carousels, it was much more like jumping on the more scrapbooking vibe. I could see that all over my TikTok as well. I do love looking at TikTok for trends, because I think this is a great way to be one step ahead. Because it's always later on Instagram. And so often you see what works on TikTok. It's not always translating on Instagram, but it's a great way to see where the market is going. So yeah, I did that basically. I rebranded. I changed the vibe of what I was doing. And obviously I went back to talking about Instagram growth. And even though I felt like I couldn't talk about Instagram growth because I wasn't growing, but I guess I just talk about things I knew was working in the past. I even sometimes repurpose old posts that simply rebranded, and it worked. Like it was just very much about this whole aesthetics. And I think I was talking about this with Laura again not so long ago. It's like sometimes you try to copy someone, but for you it's not working because again it's not you. And maybe this person just kind of have a vibe that's working. And I know someone, a content creator, who just literally pick up her phone and just talk, and just like there's literally no vibes, there's nothing. And for that person, it works amazingly well because what she says, the way she says it, I don't know, there's something that people pick up on. But for me, it was not working. So you have to find what works for you as well, and not get your ego in the way. It's like at some point you need to be okay with changing things quickly and easily.
A really, really key thing that you just said, Ginny, was that you didn't feel like you could really talk about the growth again yet, because whilst you had experienced it in the past, it had been, right now, not as much. And I just think, again, this is such a testament to doing the thing before you feel ready. Oh, I can't show up and sell until I'm making X amount of sales. I can't do this until I've done this. And I think that it's such a big part of the growth and the shift in what you both are experiencing right now is, again, the uncomfortable part of not so much as, faking it, but it's just actually like seeing the trust in yourself and doing the thing before it feels ready, in a sense. Laura, I know that you went through that period where your feed sort of went like that really bold pink.
It went from like personality identity switches, like we were lost.
Yeah, like it was like the blue phase, and then it was like the pink phase, and then you're like, stuff this pink phase. I'm going like neutrals. So talk me through the strategy process of this.
I feel like my feed went through puberty like 5 times in like half a month or so. But yeah, I think, coming actually back to what Ginny was talking about, the rebranding, one thing we realized is that what used to work were very like branded slides. Everyone had their brand colors and was making carousels with their brand colors and so forth. And then we started thinking, okay, but like there is this huge trend right now happening to, I feel like people are going back to the roots. People are trying to go back to things that feel nostalgic, things that feel sort of natural and almost more human and less polished. So branded slides that feel like it could be part of a marketing brochure, yeah, probably is not going to work right now. And so this is where things shifted so much, and that we realized from a brand perspective, but also from a content perspective, we need to build this sort of comfort creator vibe. They talk a lot about it on Instagram right now. It's like this cozy vibe, this vibe of like, okay, everyone's welcome, come in, it's friendly, it's nice, it's not too fake and marketing, and we're not trying to put ourselves on a pedestal. No, we're just out here documenting our journey. Like Ginny said, we were showing up, but we didn't feel like we had all the answers, but we were documenting already with where we're at. So I was documenting my 5 million rebrands, like I was just talking about that because I'm like, hey guys, I'm out here figuring out how I can revive my account. That branding didn't work. Clearly, I see it in the analytics. I do stick to it a couple of weeks, like to put some quantity out there. But then at some point, I also have to take my losses. And like Ginny said, put my ego on the side and be like, okay, maybe I thought that was cute, but clearly everyone else doesn't think it's that cute. So, let's go back to something else. And then it's like looking at, okay, this feels more trendy right now in terms of visual. And that was indeed at that time, still is, the scrapbooking vibe, and almost like, oh, welcome to my journal, my little diary. And we're like just out here taking some notes and sharing it. So yeah, that's the final branding that I then landed on. That is still always evolving, because I think one thing that Ginny and I became very aware of is that, yes, the last couple of months, our growth was quite big and a lot of eyes were on us. But that also means a lot of people jump on that same train and start doing the exact same. And so to keep leading an industry, we also need to keep evolving. And that is something that we hadn't done, I would say, a couple of years ago, or that we stopped doing at least, was that keep evolving part. Okay, we had our reasons life-wise, but that still doesn't mean that, of course, we can keep leading an industry. And I think when we started 5 years ago, we had this fresh energy of like, we're going to challenge everything. We're showing out with fresh energy. And that's why you know, the first time we launched the course, we made almost $500,000 in 3 weeks. Why? Because that energy is so magnetic. Like it's just, we didn't even have a massive following. I think we had 40,000 followers. So it wasn't even like the audience that we have today. And you know, Ginny was doing doodly carousels, and I was doing blue slides, which was me back then. Back then that was special, guys. Don't judge me. But you know, like we did our own thing, and back then that felt special. I mean, to be honest, back then no one did carousels, so we were known for carousels. That was like a thing that wasn't really a big thing in the industry yet. People were still posting photos of their lunch, you know. So yeah, at the end of the day, like we came with this energy of switching things up, and then I think along the way, the reality just was that, you know, life happens, but also business happens. We get focused on other things on the back end of the business, you know, building our team, conversion strategies. And that kind of like made the content creator part of us took a back seat. But then that shows in your results. And it might not show the first month because you still have an email list and you still have some traffic or a name in the
For the
industry.
first years.
But a year later or 2 years later, you feel it. And that's what we had of like, at some point, yes, the growth flatlined, but how could we survive 2 years without growth on Instagram is because we had a real business on the back end that was still making money. So it took us so long to realize that not fixing the traffic would be a problem, and you don't have longevity as a business if you don't fix that traffic problem in the long run.
I just want to jump on this because that's so important. I think, and it's hard, right? I think if you're a content creator with a business, so as in, you know, you're selling courses or something like that, it's so difficult to just navigate both. I need leads, but I also need conversion. And what is the right middle ground, you know? And when we shifted from, okay, we're going to focus on conversion because what matters is money. And at the end of the day, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the money in your bank account or do you prefer the following? You all heard that, you know, that speech on Instagram, but it's like, yes, but at some point, if you don't fix your lead issue, you're not going to go anywhere. And it might work for even a couple of years if you have a big enough audience and enough leads in your little bubble. But we don't do ads. And we don't want to do ads just yet anyway. We never figure it out. It's just too much. Like, don't even get me started. But at some point, you have to find the right middle ground. And it's not always easy to juggle it all because at the moment, I'm very much into funnels and monetization and stuff like that. And then I have to be creative. And it's like two different sides of your brain, right? Like the creative part and the funnel monetization part. And it's not easy, but you have to find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I love
something
that.
that you said, Laura, was the fact that it really requires you to, yeah, you guys are, you know, really running in the high at the moment, but you've also both aware that in order to stay ahead, you do need to keep evolving. So, Jenny, how are you staying ahead with evolving?
Yeah, I love this topic because we're really in it at the moment with Laura. And again, like I said, those things take time. I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to do. You do have to keep an eye on the market. You have to keep an eye on what's out there. You have to keep an eye on what's shifting because if you literally turn your head for like a month, things have changed. Like people have caught up. They've copied you. They're doing the same thing as you. And suddenly you're not the cool girl who's doing those cool things that no one else is doing and everyone else copied you. And we had that. So I would say there's a couple of things. First of all, if you can have a style that is hard to copy, then that's a great advantage. I have to say, I create my stuff on Procreate and Procreate Dreams, which are apps on iPad, which are mainly drawings like you draw on iPad. I just find it so much easier. And not a lot of people are willing to do that. So my style is already a little bit harder to copy because people have to buy an app. I mean, it's $20 or something, it's really nothing, but they have to have an iPad, they have to have a pencil, they have to, you know, learn to do a whole different things when they're already overwhelmed with a lot of, you know, other stuff. So if you have this advantage of knowing, you know, I don't know, software or something, whatever is it that's your thing, then, you know, use it to your advantage. And then the second thing is indeed, like, it's like keep evolving. And for me, like I said, it's like keep doing things that people are not doing or not willing to do. So right now I'm using Procreate Dreams and I'm learning more about it to try to do more animation. And it takes me more time, especially when I'm learning. And same with like, okay, my carousel, I'm like, okay, it's time to change things up. Like I'm going to see what's trendy right now. I do spend, like I said, a lot of time on TikTok. I mean, a lot, try not to, but I spend some time on TikTok, but also on Pinterest. You can really see trends on Pinterest. Pinterest tends to be trendsetter. So if you go on your Pinterest and even if you type a few keywords, you'll see what's trendy right now. And I tend to look at my design, get inspired from my design on Pinterest. So even yesterday I was doing my reels, and I said to Laura, I feel like I need to change things up, because now there's even CapCut who has integrated a few things where the text can, look a little bit more handwritten, like jiggles or whatever. And apps are going to catch up with it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I jiggle my text. If everyone's going to do it, it's not new anymore. So I need to find something else, So then I level up again, and I find something that is harder to do and people can't keep up with. And it sounds a little bit horrible to say it like that.
So one thing I would say, I hope it helps everyone listening, that I do is I just, like Ginny said, consume, and I save a lot. And every single almost month, in our case, we do have a graphic designer helping with the carousels. I literally send her all my saved posts and I say, look, this is what I liked about that post. This is what I liked. I saw this new thing. And so I analyze. That's what I do. And then I brief the person in our case who does the design. Luckily, she's Gen Z, amazing. Also, hire Gen Z people for social media because they have an eye. I don't have to spill out a trend to her. She's living the trend. She's probably sharing it with her friends. So maybe that's it as well. But it's keeping an eye on out and just deciding to change it up and not being like married to your branding as like something that's static and that cannot evolve. No, evolve.
I think, and I just want to say two things based on that. It's like, yes, indeed, like don't be like, oh my God, this is my branding, I need to keep it. The core essence of your branding. I've always loved those doodle things, right? That's always been my brand. But maybe there's a trendy way of doing doodles, and I used to do it. It was not trendy anymore. So I had to find the trendier way of doing it. But the second thing is the thing that Laura saves, it's not from competitors. It's from people from different niches.
Yeah.
And that's like, that sounds stupid, but I keep saying it. And I feel like people don't catch up on it. But like, this is the secret. If I have to share one secret, this is the secret. This is literally the thing they teach you in business school as well. I've learned this from the beginning of time. Like they were always telling you, learn what other industries are doing. What are they doing really well? Bring it to your own industry. And this is how you become a leader.
Even looking back on my brand, like when I started, it was very like light pink and blush. And I really think that it's just also a representation at my brand myself. Is like back then I was a massive people pleaser and I was like, and now my pink has got bolder and I'm like, so have I, and it's little things that can look very, very different. I know firsthand when I'm having conversations with Laura and I'm like, oh, like you got to check out, personal. I mentioned someone. I'm like, I love how they're doing this. And Laura's like, who? I'm like, how
I never know them. Like
never. And so, I know firsthand that the two of you may consume, but you do not consume from the people in the coaching industry, social media industry, which I love. And I definitely, again, from the outside, I think has absolutely been a success. One thing on this that I do want to touch on, because you guys have experienced all the highs and all the lows. And as you said, Laura, people being like, hey, isn't this your brand? Isn't this your style? I remember, Ginny, that a few months ago, you were sort of called out for doing something. And I'd love for you to share what sort of happened. Okay, Lucky Queens, we're going to hit pause because what we're about to talk about with Ginny and Laura next is something I'm very grateful that they were open to talking about. It's the first time they're speaking about this since it happened, and it really deserved its own episode in itself. So I wanted to split up how to revive your dead Instagram and then what happens when you wake up to social media canceling you. But if you are liking the episode, if you're loving this conversation with Ginny, Laura, and myself, share it to your stories. Tag us. Or even better, leave a review because that absolutely does make such a big difference. I read them all individually and I appreciate it so much. But otherwise, I will see you in the next episode, our bonus episode with Ginny and Laura.